Kids don't. 6 p.m. November 17th, 2021. This is a special meeting. All members are present except for Commissioner DeVito, which has an excused absence for this evening. So with that, Commissioner Banks, you will lead us in invocation, please.
Father, once again, we come before you to give you thanks for watching over us and keeping our body touch. Father, we still pray for our community and the workers of this city hall. God, we pray for each commissioner and their family. Continue to keep us in your will, like this in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we want to go ahead. Charles, do you want to lead us off?
First, I want to mention we have an updated attachment exhibit for you. It was passed out. There was an error on the police personnel services. The current budget, I think we had it at 50,000. Sheet in fact, it's actually was 500,000.
Okay.
200, so that's been adjusted. Just that figure was printed wrong. And then I guess we should, you want to go ahead and read the ordinance?
Yeah. Ordinance 2021-10, ordinance of the city of Crescent City, Florida, amending the budget for the fiscal year 2021, beginning October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021, by decreasing the general fund appropriations and expenditures, increasing the gas fund and water fund appropriations and expenditures, decreasing the wastewater fund appropriations and expenditures, and providing for an effective date.
So this is an item required by statute that we close out the previous fiscal year by November 30th. And today we have Jim Drake from Clarion who's going to go through the details of this, kind of what it means for us. And then after his, I'll go through the results kind of in a broader view by fund of what happened last year. Part of that was in my cover memo, but I have some other slides as well. So Jim, if you want to come on up and just talk about what it is we're doing here and the reason for it.
Jim, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jim Drake. I'm a consultant with the Clarion. As Mr. Rudd indicated, what we're doing is getting y'all to pass the ordinance to amend your budget for 2021 in accordance with state statute, which requires it to be approved within 60 days of the end of the fiscal year. So we're 13 days ahead. And what I have presented and what I've prepared is kind of an increased level of transparency. According to the audit report, you're budgeting at the fund level, which means as long as your total general fund budget exceeds your expenditures, you're okay. You don't have to do anything. But what we wanted to do is present down to the departmental level a budget so that you can have tighter control over the budget, for instance. And again, it's one of those, kind of interesting things, but in conversations with Mr. Rudd and Ms. Johnston, we felt like this was a good step forward to start working toward a little more transparency in the budget process. Noticing increases and decreases, and in a lot of cases, what these were budget amendments within the department. There was one that's or two departments that have crossed over a little bit, but most of them, the department itself was fully funded. We were just moving funds into the right line.
Jim, but there were two administrative transfers across funds that needed to occur.
Well, and actually, my first day here, Ms. Johnson and I worked on it. She went ahead and made those transfers. So the information you're going to prepare or preparing to give reflects those. It ended up causing, causes a good word, but your fund balance in the general fund is going to go up at least $151,000. All of this is pretty close.
Can I, just before we get down into the meats and potatoes of this, I just want to ask a question while you're still on that, because I think there's a little bit of confusion. I don't know in the past that have you ever done this? Is this that has come up that maybe you've never come back in and adjusted the budget? You just accepted the budget, or has this ever happened? And someone mentioned to me that really only happens, or it's required, is if you have one of the departments has a shortage of some sort. So can you just clarify, just so that why we're doing what we're doing tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I kind of previously indicated it. Part of the audit is, they list your significant accounting policies, and one of them is that you budget at the fund level. And I indicated that your total general fund, in this case, budget exceeded your expenditures. And there's a little notation at the bottom of the exhibit that says you really didn't need to do this budget.
Okay.
But for the reasons I stated, the increased, accountability.
Transparency purposes.
Yes.
Okay, which is
That we
what we
took-
want. So that I'm glad we're doing this tonight.
Yeah, so we
okay.
took it down to the department level.
Okay, but, okay, so we're just taking an extra step.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see that. Thank you very much.
And wasn't it necessary with those transfers from gas and water? Part of this process was. That was my concern. Those are interfund transfers.
Right.
And,
Yes, and again, we've already put those into the accounting system.
Yeah.
So they've been made, because what you want to do is have your the results that Mr. Ed's getting ready to present, you want them to be accurate. And if you're not making those transfers, it makes the general fund look worse than the gas and the water fund. And actually, you want to show as accurate a picture, so you can make a decision based on current and good data.
Which is something that I think we're going to discuss possibly after your presentation as we go forward into this next year.
And Mr. Red asked me to mention a couple of things. I know there's some concerns. And when I looked at your financial statements, right now, y'all are running about a 64% fund balance, which is excellent. Most cities are usually in the 25 to 35% range. A lot of my CFO experience was at school districts, and I was happy if I got over 10. But then the state tells the schools everything you got to do. And there's another key performance indicator is cash on hand. And right now, just in your reserve fund, you have 211 days. You can operate for 211 days without collecting any money. So that's
Good, bad.
that's great.
Okay.
Actually, I was looking up City of Tampa. They require 90 days, and y'all are almost 2.5 times that. So it is, as far as financial position and that kind of thing, y'all are in great shape.
We're sound.
Very sound.
Okay. Okay. We want to go through this? Yeah. I think that's-
Questions?
Are we gonna present? Are you gonna explain kind of what happened here? Where we are?
Well, on that sheet,
Yes.
like I indicated, there's
What's the sheet that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hopefully it's
So,
the
I just
one with
wanted
right
to
numbers
make
on
sure
it.
that you have the right sheet.
I think that's
Yeah,
it.
It's actually the new one.
Exhibit A.
Yeah, no, nobody's really said what you're looking at here.
It's the new one.
It's
we
the
passed out
exhibit A
under
that
the keys.
goes in
Yeah,
here.
you got it.
Exhibit A.
Oh, it's this sheet now?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
changed the dark lines.
Changed it, so now it's.
Yeah, when
So it's this one.
I entered those
Should
numbers
have
in,
like
I
this.
left out a zero.
Okay.
Okay.
And the one that y'all saw first at 50,200, and it should have been 500,200. And what you're looking at is, in most cases, it's a budget amendment that will move money from either a salary type account, salary and benefit account, to the operating or vice versa. As I indicated, some of the departments just needed money moved between the personnel expense account and the operating account, but we didn't increase the budget of the department itself. The only place that we made changes was in the police, in part because of the when you contracted with the sheriff's office to provide law enforcement, it significantly reduced your personnel expenditures, and that that budget wasn't amended at the time. So we made that amendment.
Became an operating expense.
It became an
Sheriff's
operating
contract
expense.
was an operating expense.
Because
As
it's
opposed to
contractual and it's not employee
Yes,
based.
ma'am.
Okay. So that makes sense. So as we go forward, that's how it needs to be. Where's Robin?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it would be.
Okay. Charles gave, I questioned this earlier and possibly you or Robin, maybe you can explain this because I got my math to work in other areas off of Charles. But I didn't in the, I guess it's in the projected water fund balance decrease of 38,418.
You're looking at the cover memo.
Yes. And so I'm getting, if everything else computed, but for some reason, I see it as 35,349.62. So is there something, how did you arrive, who arrived at that, Jim? Was it you or was it
Yes, ma'am.
Robin? Okay,
And I can explain the difference. The 38,000
yes, sir.
is actual. The
Okay.
35 is the budget difference. Because there's a difference in the water fund of about $3,000
Okay.
where the revenues didn't cover the expenditures.
That makes sense.
Okay, now, we also have on this thing, it says that the water fund has sufficient resources to
Yes,
clear
ma'am.
losses for several years,
Correct.
but the gas fund could be depleted in the next couple of years without a rate study and possible rate increase. Now,
Correct.
we have just done a rate increase, correct?
Yes.
Do we need to do another one? Is that what this is saying?
Well,
Not necessarily. One of the things that Mr. Rudd's going to show you is that the gas fund lost $68,000, and your unrestricted fund balance was, I can't remember off the top of my head, because we haven't closed out the year. But if you keep on having a $68,000 loss in fiscal 24, maybe 25, you'll end up with negative fund balance and you'll be in violation of your bond covenants.
but we think the increase we did would bring in about $100,000, so it ought to offset that loss, plus a little bit in black.
Yeah, because there was a $60,616 difference in what we projected.
Well, I
To
remember
receive.
when all that happened, but I just wanted, all of a sudden, it looks like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe that rate increase wasn't enough, and in a couple of years, we're probably gonna have another one. That's what
We'll
I'm
know.
saying.
Well,
this year.
and I wrote that before I heard about the,
The rate increase.
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to.
No, it's
I just-
concerning. No, it's
Yeah, it's your
it's
concern.
definitely concerning. It's something that,
But and it sounds like I've already taken the action to increase the,
Service
Fee.
charges and
Oh, like a user fee.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that if you at least break even, you should be fine. Because you're always looking for your, utility funds to at least break even.
not to put their gas though. We didn't do it. We didn't raise no rate, gas rates.
Not the
Per customer.
per therm, whatever, we
Yeah.
just raised the access charge
You're right.
per household and per commercial. So hopefully we've offset that loss that we just showed you for last year in the current year. A year from now, we'll know for real how it was, but in theory, based on our projections, it'll be about a $40,000 in the black rather than 60,000 red, based on the increase that you approved.
Okay.
And then this reason for shortfall, grant funds received less than budgeted, so what do we just go out there and hope like hell we get grants for
No, we put the-
600,000, 34,000?
We put the $750,000 grant in that we were awarded as revenue, the whole grant, and then we
I
don't.
mean, that's
use a
what
little
this
bit.
kind of looks like though, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I guess it's the way it's written is all, so just get written kind of funny. When I read it, I said, what?
well, and it's fairly typical. If you got awarded a grant, you know you're gonna get the $750,000. You don't know if you're gonna spend it all that year. And in the case of the city, I only spent about $112,000. I budgeted the entire revenue. So you didn't spend, you only spent $112,000 on that project under the grant, and you're gonna you've received all of it. What was the last amendment we made? About $90,000
On the
Yeah,
grant.
90,000.
on the grant. We accrued the revenue,
Some of that expense came this fiscal year,
correct.
reimbursement with this fiscal.
But, and you'll get the reimbursement this year, but it was, they were obligated to pay you at the end of last fiscal year.
So have we not been paid out for that, Robin?
No,
Hmm.
no,
Why is that?
I'm still asking for more money. We're paying it out and we're receiving money.
It's a process. We get invoices, we send them,
Yeah,
we pay them.
but we have to pay it first before we get
So
reimbursed.
what do we have right now currently that is outstanding?
Well, I had already asked for $101,000. And I asked for reimbursement, and I have a 63 and $8,000 that I have to ask for that.
That you have to ask for, and so right now you only have 101 that you have.
Right, because I have to wait for it to come back through the bank, and it's gotta be cashed, so.
With grants, the state's pretty good about making you spend the money before they reimburse you.
Right.
Yes, it pays. So true.
Okay, commissioners, you have any other questions? Is there anything
And we've kind of gotten into my PowerPoint, so I can go ahead and
go ahead and
run through that.
Jim, thank you. How
Yes,
much,
thank you.
and you're here, I know you're new, so thank you for being here. My concern is I want to make sure with your presentation that Robin going forward next year, that Robin knows all of this also.
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. And I didn't give you my history. I worked for the Auditor General for 22 years. Then I went to work for several school districts for the next 20. So I have a lot of experience, and Robin and I have already had a few discussions on let's deal with your pain points, and then we'll start working toward getting the audit cleaned up. That's one of my big things. I really hope the same thing that Robin's doing this next year and not me.
And you're gonna stick around there through his presentation, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Charles.
So this is in your cover memo, but I didn't know we'd have anyone here tonight, so I gotta go through it. As we talked about, we projected 2.6 million, but that included $750,000 of a grant. I did get put the whole grant in as revenue. So the difference was $764,000. The reasons for that was that the DOT grant ad valorem was also a little bit less than projected, as were some other odds and ends were a little bit less. Our projected general fund revenue, expenses rather, of course, were 2.6. They came in actually at 1.7. So we ended up with an increase, or what I call leftovers, of $151,000. So if you recall, you approved a budget for this year. I asked for about 70,000 in reserves. So I'll come back to you with an amendment. We don't need that anymore. We have this, we'll take that off of this, and then there'll be another probably 80,000 we'll need to utilize in the budget. I'll bring that to you. The water fund, we had projected revenue of 470. It came in just below that at 435. And then the expenses, also 470, they came in over at 473, which had, we have a decrease in the fund balance of $38,418. Wastewater, the revenue came in below projected. And then, but our expenses came in below as well. So we actually had an increase in fund balance of $12,000. For the gas, revenue was down about $60,000 from what we projected. Although expenses were up about $6,000 over what we projected. So we had a decrease in the fund balance there of $66,000. And then this slide is just the whole bank account. I tried to catch a moment in time. This is the end of October. The cash in the bank, money in the bank, $4.1 million, just to kind of show you where it is. The general fund is very low because we were not receiving online payments for utilities and we were paying out the DOT grant. So it looks low, but as he indicated, we have very good cash. We have over $1 million in cash in our reserves. Natural gas, that's the combination of a fund called Renewal and Replacement and reserves. We have a water expansion fund, $500,000, a wastewater expansion fund with a little over $500,000. We're holding deposits, gas and water customer deposits, $175,000. We have a sinking fund, which is we put money aside for future borrowing, and it's a passive. It's been sitting there, only $7,300, $7,400 in that account. We have a water and sewer renewal and replacement at $109,000. Our Better Place, ARPA, and CRA funds are sort of different pots of money that are sitting in there. Those rollover amounts. So that was at the end of October. This changes daily as we pay bills and get deposits and so forth. But that gives you an idea of where the $4 million is.
How many accounts are we down to now at the bank? Robin?
We're still the same. That I have not been able to contact them and get them out here or do something. So at least
We met with them.
we met with them, but that's it.
Well, then we need Edmonds. You were going to contact Edmonds Edmond has to kind of orchestrate, have got to handle it in our software. That's kind of the step we're at. We can't just close accounts. We have to make sure we're
Yeah,
with Edmonds.
I'm gonna call them tomorrow and find out, but I'm pretty sure that they can.
So, Charles, let me ask you this, with us having this overage, you know, that we didn't spend 151,000, or maybe I should ask Robin, does this mean with everything that we did last year, because we went through a lot of changes, we did a lot of upgrades, that we did not have to dip into any revenue, any of our reserves?
We did get gas, we gave
The gas,
$86,000.
yes,
Other than that, no.
that was it, and that was just for the gas department.
Yep.
Okay.
And we will not need the requested reserves for the current fiscal year.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions? Do you have any questions? Commissioner Burton? No. Commissioner Banks?
No, you did a pretty good job of explaining.
Sorry, I have another question. I guess I need to turn it over to you. And you say, Commissioner, we're done. Robin, I do have a concern, and Jim, maybe you can help us with this as far as when we were setting the budget for this current year. And I questioned this when we met and talked about it, in that we have rounded up. And a lot of these we took from what we had in the budget from the year prior. And in looking at what he's telling us, in some of ours, we didn't meet the revenue we were expecting to receive. And is that gonna be an issue for us this year, Jim?
They took a 3-year average and rounded up the previous. finance year.
And again, like with your ad valorem taxes, once the property appraiser tells you how much value you have, you can calculate that revenue pretty easily. Mr. Rudd indicated that you were a little bit short on collections, like 2.16% short on collections of what was budgeted. Now, that could have been because you used the 3-year average. And you know, what I would do, and you know, what I'll help Robin with is, you know, we'll come up with a more sustainable, you know, calculation, because if I have the taxable value, I can estimate the ad valorem taxes. There's a lot of stuff you get from the state. They put out on a website every year. They estimate gas tax, state revenue sharing, and that's where you get those numbers from. Then it's not a guess. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I always want to be able to go back to somebody else's document and say, this is where I got the number. Because, you know, you can get in trouble if you go in and you need money, so you increase the revenue, knowing you're not going to get it. And that's not a good way to go.
Well, and that's what I want to make sure is that we're not, that concerns me. It concerned me back when we were developing the budget, and it concerns me today, especially now that we know what we have, you know, before us and where we came out from last year. And, you know, when you're doing these budgets, of course, I've asked in the past too, what happens with the money left over? Well, you never have any money left over because these are just projected amounts. Well, I know whenever I set my home budget, and I'm sure all of us have done that, we pretty much know how much we're going to bring in that month. And that's where our spending needs to be under. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that as we go forward, and if we have to do some adjustments, that we're on target.
Well, and one of the things I suggested to Robin is that we'll come back to you at least quarterly.
Yeah.
With the budget amendment. That way, you know, you'll never be more than, you know, 3 months out of the way. It's probably going to take 6 months before you get close to any of these departments exceeding what you have appropriated to them. But I think it's a good practice to get in, you know, let's do this at least every 3 months. And if we have a big change, you know, we would bring it to you that month.
Okay.
But it just makes sense.
Is that standard operating with municipalities and across
Well, most of my experiences with school districts, and I had to do them every month.
every month? Okay.
I don't think that the size of your budget probably necessitates having one
My
every
experience
month.
was 6 months.
6 months.
You do this now, November, and then oftentimes in November, you'll fix the current year budget if you're ready for that. And then 6 months, you do a mid-year adjustment.
I like for our own security though, commissioners, please weigh in on this, that for our own security right now, knowing that where we are, that
Yeah, because
We do
I
this.
think Crescent City's been lost for a while, so it might be nice to see where we are every 3 months. I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea.
I think that's a safe, I think that's a safe way
Yeah.
to proceed forward.
It will be safe.
Well, and Mr. Rudd indicated that, you know, y'all would like to see, you know, monthly budget actuals, which we could get out of the system.
Commissioners? Anything else?
Good. Would be.
David's here, does he want to,
It was just in case we had gas.
I think the big thing right now is this going to have with these gas increases, like I was in Palaca today and it's up to 3.35. What kind of impact is that gonna have on our gas department?
Well, it's natural,
Yes.
the natural gas and also on our public works, everything.
Yeah, all of our
is
gas went up,
way
but I'm looking at our natural gas and what kind of impact. David, do you wanna,
Well, since we buy the natural gas
in advance?
in advance,
Yeah.
and so
and I know
much of
yeah, I
it,
know I think
it
we're
won't
set.
for a while,
I
but when
think
the
that-
new contract comes, it probably will, am I correct?
Well, but we don't buy everything in advance. I mean, we just buy a certain percentage, maybe like 33%, but it's different rates in that 33%. But that was one reason why we didn't want to touch the cost per therm, to raise that. We were advised by FG, Florida Gas Utility, to leave that amount alone because what we did was when we went up on service charges and the minimum bills and everything, that was enough to cover it. But the natural gas per therm price is going to go up without us touching it. Our profit margin will stay the same, but the price is going to keep going up because of the pipeline, the economy. Just like you say with gasoline, the gas stations don't make that much more profit, but their price is going up. So, I mean, and it's going to hurt us because we drive a lot. I mean, if Herman drives up to San Mateo twice a day, he drove 120 miles. He goes out to Willaca. I mean, the miles add up. I mean, you look at our oil changes, we change at 5,000 miles. We may do it 3 times a year. That's why my trucks get so much wear and tear. And we don't want to buy a really, really old used truck. We want to buy a newer used truck, but we can't afford a new truck. But the city departments, the water and everything, they're just staying inside the city limits. We're spread way out. So yes, we have a lot of overhead there, but hopefully with this budget items that we've increased and everything, back in 2018, what we proposed to do was to go up with the increases. That would have increased about $52,000, which would have got us out of the hole even. Now with what we're doing 100,000. That's probably what we'll probably gain, maybe 102,000 based off last year's numbers. But that should do us fine. But the gas department, it doesn't run real smooth as far as cost expenditures. You never know what we're going to find. Today, we were killing a service out in Willaca. 2 foot over to the left, we found a major leak. We're not sure what we found. We had to bury it. We'll have to come out there after Thanksgiving, shut the whole road down, probably inconvenience about 15 customers. But we may have to bring Willaca Gas in to weld for us. Well, they're not cheap. Their welder's $100 an hour plus transport. So we might be looking at $1,000 expense there to fix that. But, it's just what we have to do. But we try and cut corners, not safety wise, but we try and cut corners expense wise as much as possible. But I know it's an issue.
So going back to my question, though, do you feel like with this fluctuation right now with our natural gas prices that we're still okay?
Yes, we're going to be fine. Unless something major drastic happens, that's going to affect the whole country. But we can't predict that. But based off the numbers and what I see, we should be doing fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Jim, thank you very much. We appreciate, I guess he's sitting in there.
Yes.
We appreciate your expertise in getting us through this. Charles, do you want to talk a little bit about,
We need a motion.
oh, that's true. We need a motion to accept. You're right. So I'm going to need a motion to approve this ordinance.
I move that we accept ordinance 2021-10.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. So the ordinance is accepted and approved. And then we have a second reading on this. It's going to be at the December meeting. We're still within our time scope that we need to be.
Yes, we got a
We got it.
first reading in within
First reading.
60 days.
So that's all we had to do was the first reading? Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about as far as the meetings with the commission? We've got some things in front of us, so since we're all here right now, you might as well,
So the parks,
yeah.
we were going to bring back the parks ordinance in December, and it's gonna be a long issue, and the agenda is growing for December already. So my recommendation may be to do a special meeting on that, a different date, just that, to avoid a really long meeting on the 9th, or we can bring it back in January, the January meeting. Just need to go through, you want to talk about criminalizing certain offenses, we have to look at each item of the ordinance and whether we want to have it a criminal offense or fine.
And the
So-
sheriff's department's gonna be part of that too, to help us work through that, so.
It sounds like a special meeting.
December's pretty packed
I
already.
think
Let's do January then.
yeah, I think we need a special meeting on that because, you know, I talked to the city manager very briefly about the crowd. You know. It seemed to be very calm. We don't have too much trouble out there on Saturday, Sunday, right through there. But the trouble we have is the kind of road blocking sometimes, but Charles kind of controlling that and doing a good job on controlling that. But by being in Crescent City, the years I have been, other people is going to come and want to have a affair. It ain't gonna be as quiet as it is out there now. So I don't know whether we need to deal with putting something in place to try to prevent that, or what we need to do. I know we're gonna need to do something. I see a copycat coming right now.
So do you think though that we'll be okay putting this off for the discussion on our parks and improving those ordinances in
Yeah,
January?
in January, it can wait. I ain't looking for it to come
Okay,
right now, but you have to go out there on the internet and see some strange things what they're talking about. I'm kind of letting the sheriff over. I go out there, I can tell when you're gonna have a yard party, there's gonna be 75 people there.
Yeah.
And we got to try to curb it because, you know, everybody ain't quiet.
yeah.
It can get out of hand and we have a big to do. Now, it'd be some people out there, but they see even once before, year before that, they was kind of quiet. The crowd, I mean, busload was out there, but they were kind of quiet nature people, but.
Well, the noise ordinance would be something else that we're going to look at, and that's where they recommended that we look at what the county has done. And I guess we could do that at that same workshop. If everybody, or unless you want to take that ordinance up.
Well, if it were a special meeting, you could vote and
Yeah.
finish it.
Yeah. That's
Be the
true,
advantage of a special meeting.
that's true, we could do that.
So there's the special meeting on parks, is that including the signs and all the different things that are gonna kind of go with it,
Yeah, that would be the whole.
the whole shebang?
It's a lot. That's why I thought for the December meeting, it'd be a couple hours discussion.
Maybe it's not a workshop, maybe we need to do a special meeting so we can vote on it and get it done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's be a special meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're recommending.
Okay, I want to make sure. I thought somebody said a workshop, like maybe special meeting. Interlocal agreement as well. That's something that we need to probably workshop before we meet with the county on.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to set that up for a workshop.
Now, who makes the agreement on this, interlocal agreement?
Well, they kind of sent their idea and we'll we'll have a counter proposal based on our desires, and then it'll be sort of we'll have to work it out, what we can agree to.
And you know, interlocal, where the new meeting, you're not here tonight, so I can kind of talk about it.
Be careful, because they're listening somewhere.
Interlocal agreement, in the past, interlocal agreement was just something on paper. It wasn't actually followed to the T. And I know, because I've been in the trap, because I'm a commissioner by a certain road coming by my house. But what about the other people still around on that same road? Where the commissioners should have, you know how people allocate with their mouth and talk. And I don't think that's fair. If the commissioner pay tax, I think he should have the same service as Johnny Brown had. Do y'all understand what I'm trying to
Yeah, I
say?
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But just because we're
I really
commissioners
do.
does not mean that we're no longer taxpayers,
There
right?
you go.
I know.
My dollar counts too. And when you, and every time it's been going back and forward, back and forward, for now, 7 months. I got it on the calendar when I first started talking about it, and haven't nothing been did.
Well, and this hasn't been updated. I mean, this is
This
since
has got some-
1995.
It's got some things in it that we really have to kind of consider and, you know,
So I think we just need to have a workshop on it, go over everything, maybe have Keith be part of it, David part of it, and
And then I think they're gonna come present at a commission meeting.
they'll come present at a commission.
is this little one here that I have in my hands, is this what they, I mean, I've got this big long one that's all been, you know,
Yeah, they
scratched
did
out.
they did the
Okay,
line,
so this is the one that they've actually are presenting to us now, is that?
yeah, the one I sent.
They submitted these to all the municipalities.
Okay.
So they-
Where do y'all get that from?
It's at the mayor's meeting, wasn't it?
It was at
Yeah.
the mayor's meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, they submitted it to all the municipalities. All of them were different
okay.
because they all have different agreements. And
Right,
so
and so this is what.
this
they-
is their proposal. This
This
is
is
their
their
proposal to us. And so when at the workshop, we'll break it down and see what our proposal back to them is gonna be. And we're gonna get you a copy of this.
Please.
As a matter of fact, I don't know if this might have changed, but I'll get you a copy before you leave. So that you can have time to go over it and
Yes.
absorb it, so that,
Yeah,
so then what we would do at a workshop is just determine, you know, what's important to us.
I just happen to have 2 copies, so you can have the stuff.
So do you want to set those dates at the December meeting?
We can set those dates at the December meeting. Commissioner DeVito will be here, so everybody just kind of bring your calendars, you know, with you
Agreement is that they give
at
us.
the December meeting.
Read that. We gotta think about it sometimes.
Okay. With that, is there anything else? Mr. Pickens, you have anything for us? Nothing's advertised, I know, so it's, okay, well, thank you all very much. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Yeah,
Motion
it'll work
carries.
out.
Adjourn at 6:42. Somebody write that down.
I am right now.
Write that down.
I got right now. It's big too.